Tennessee football has a massive recruiting weekend coming up. Which blue chippers are going to be on campus to watch Tennessee practice on Saturday? We'll tell you that and more. It's your Friday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Friday morning, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Kane. So happy to have you guys here along for the ride today. Whether you're on your way to work, you're working out in the cubicle, whenever and wherever you are listening to this podcast, I trust it's your first listen. Can't thank you enough for that. And you everydayers making this show what it is. You can watch, listen, view, subscribe, all that. Follow us for free wherever you get your podcasts. It's Apple, Spotify, wherever. And, of course, by subscribing to us on the Locked On Vols YouTube channel. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be right around the next corner? Take on the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. Here on a Friday, Matt Ray is going to join us here in a couple of seconds to tell you about a huge weekend coming up for the Tennessee Volunteers in terms of recruiting. 2025 SEC opponents have been announced, and boy, is the league super lazy and super scared. I'll tell you why here in a moment in segment 2. And then this question's been tossed around a little bit over the last couple of weeks. Which one's more realistic? Is it a Final Four, College World Series appearance, or a college football playoff appearance for basketball, for football, or for baseball? That is your Friday rundown, and let's go ahead and jump right on into it. This is my conversation with my colleague over at VolQuest.com. Tennessee recruiting, it's heating up. This is Matt Ray. Matt Ray, Tennessee football gearing up for a really big weekend coming up. There was, not making fun of the poster, but there was a question asked on the board a couple of days ago, like just kind of saying, hey, it almost feels like it's been a little slower in terms of recruiting, in terms of having people on campus. There was a junior day that was canceled and all that, but if anybody thinks it's been a little slower in terms of having kids on campus, there's been a ton on campus this week and this weekend. I mean, we're talking north of about 50, isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I answered that poster and said like 20, plus realistic targets, but the thought for some time really dating back to, early February was that Tennessee's building towards this being 40 to 50 to 60 guys, and right now it looks like it's going to probably be around 50, as long as everyone makes it in. So it's going to be a pretty big weekend for Tennessee this weekend with George MacIntyre coming back to town and several, high-profile guys joining him here in Knoxville.
Yeah, who are some of those other high-profile blue chippers that are going to be on campus this week that Tennessee is really in on? I know there's a lot, but who are some of the priorities, I guess, that are set to be here over the next, 48, 72 hours?
Yeah, I think starting in state, you look at Radarius Jackson and Cam Sparks, both of those guys, getting them back to town is going to be big for Tennessee. I think they continue to show well with both of those guys. I think they like the idea of, pairing up with George MacIntyre at the next level. And Tennessee absolutely would love to pair them up with Joakim Dotson and complete that in-state trio and then swing big for, an out-of-state receiver. It feels like they would continue to take 4 in this class if they can get the right combination of guys. And they're in on a large number of receivers outside of the state borders. And then, Desan Brame is a tight end target from Kansas that will be here along with Jack Van Dorselaer. And, Van Dorselaer has been committed since the winter, and it felt like kind of at that time Tennessee was done at the tight end position. They would take one, that would be it. That's still the case, Eric, 95% in my opinion. Brame is the wild card there. Brame is a stud. Brame is connected with Van Dorselaer, George MacIntyre, and they've had a lot of conversations about teaming up together. So this weekend's important for him. I think there's a chance coming out of this weekend that he'll set an official visit with Tennessee for June, and I think the Vols are in the thick of this. I say 95% because outside of Brame, I do not see Tennessee taking another tight end in this class. I think they're very content with Jack Van Dorselaer.
Well, let me ask you this, man, and I know tight end is typically a position that you don't – sometimes you take multiple, but a lot of times there's just one. And I recognize you still got Emmanuel Okoye in the room. All goes well, nobody leaves, right? Ethan Davis is in the room. Holden Stays has another year after this. But you're still kind of shallow at the position. Why wouldn't you maybe want to take 2 so you're not in a position that you've been in the last couple of years.
You are, and I think some of that just has to do with the evaluations of some of these guys that Tennessee's been in on at different times before Jack decided to commit. I think Tennessee, kind of felt comfortable with where they're at. There's tight ends in the portal every time. If they need to go get a body, I think they feel comfortable being able to go get a body. Where they're at also in the 2026 class, I think is going to be interesting. I think you have Carson Snead in state. And there's plenty of reason to feel good about him with the way that Tennessee's recruited him. He'll be on campus another 5 or 6 times this year because his brother Dayton's on the roster. I think he sees a clear vision for him. So, not to say Tennessee's got him in their back pocket or anything like that, but I think Tennessee continues to feel well about the way that they've recruited Carson Snead. So when you look, just kind of trying to balance these classes, I think they're in a spot where they can take 2 really good tight ends, or they're okay if they just take Jack Van Dorselaer, who they feel great about. Deshaun Brame is really good. He's already got a college frame, being recruited by some of the best. And I think there were some questions with he want to team up with another tight end, and I think that's very apparent that he does. I think he's got a strong interest in teaming up with Nate Roberts as well, another Midwest guy, kind of like Van Dorselaer. But what's going to happen there? Does Nate Roberts go to Oregon and do they look at teaming up? Does Nate Roberts go to Oklahoma? There's a lot of variables at play. And at the end of the day, does Brame go through this process and decide, hey, I don't need to team up with anybody?
Yeah. To
be determined, but Tennessee's in the hunt for Deshaun Brame right now.
Recruiting is always fluid. That is for sure.
That is for sure.
So Ethan Utley is a highly touted in-state guy. Where's Tennessee at with Ethan Utley? There's been some chatter this week a little bit, but also Jaime Ffrench was on campus earlier this week, a 5-star wide receiver. How did that go for Tennessee?
Yeah, that was. We'll start with Ffrench and come back to Utley. That was a good visit for Tennessee. I think if you watch the interview at VolQuest, Jaime Ffrench said Tennessee was definitely top 3, and they were top 3 coming in. And I tend to think that that's the case. I think that Ohio State's continued to pace the way there for Jaime Ffrench. But I think Tennessee's a team that's, starting to climb the ranks and has been for some time with him. I think he's hit it off with Kelsey Pope. Tennessee was by to see him multiple times during the contact period in the winter. He's very comfortable with George MacIntyre. He knows that he's going to get the football in Tennessee's offense. And I think Tennessee continues to show well for him. Getting him back in June will be huge. He'll go back to Columbus again this weekend. We're coming up, so that'll be big for him. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think Tennessee's in this for Jaime Ffrench. Florida State's there as well. LSU's trying super hard to use, the fact that they have Bryce Underwood committed and are coming off a season of producing Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors, and they want to continue to build on that. So they're trying really hard to be in it as well. It's pretty clear that Jaime Ffrench is comfortable leaving the state of Florida, though. He committed to Alabama at one point. Ohio State's always been in it. He's looking hard at Tennessee. So this is one that, when you look at it, he's a Jacksonville kid. Probably no way he's, leaving that area. No, I think there's a really good chance Jaime Ffrench leaves the state of Florida, and Tennessee's a serious contender. And then with Ethan Utley, this is one that, kind of for weeks, I think everybody thinks, AP and I are just, downplaying or not really putting a lot out. But Ethan Utley dropped that he was committing, and we knew that was the direction that it was heading, but nobody really knew where Ethan Utley was going. And he continued, that initial night that he dropped the commitment, nothing was finished at that point. He made it very clear that he wanted to have multiple more conversations with each staff that he was considering and kind of see where things go. I think this weekend is obviously important for that. He's deciding on the 28th, so we're less than a week away.
Yeah.
But this weekend's going to be some of those final conversations, and I think he'll tell a staff. And, I think Tennessee's continued to keep their foot pressed down, and this has been a battle. I mean, Texas has not gone away. Utley's been high on Texas for months, and that's really what this is coming down to. I don't think Michigan's really a factor in this one right now. Where we sit, but for Tennessee and Texas, they're going to battle here to the finish line, and realistically at the end of the day, whichever UT gets the commitment, it's not going to be over. I mean, he's going to continue to take some visits, I think, and we'll go from there.
Out the door real quick, Joakim Dotson was on Tennessee's campus checking out practice on Thursday morning. Timelines for Cam Sparks and Redarius Jackson, 2 other wide receivers in state.
Yeah, really quick on Dodson, I think when he committed, we talked about where the ceiling was for him and a guy that had maybe been slept on a little bit in state. I think you saw that once Georgia offered, right? This is a guy that's going to pick up steam, continue to pick up steam in the recruiting process. He's transferring to Baylor, so he's only going to have more exposure there. That's going to help his process pick up even more, I think. But I think getting him back to campus, if you're Tennessee's big, I don't think there's much to worry about there right now. I think he wanted to commit early to Tennessee for a reason. I think he always knew deep down that his process would probably continue to pick up. But, I think for Cam Sparks, I think we're still looking at May. And I think for Rodarius Jackson, we're looking after those June official visits. And, I think, again, Tennessee's continued to recruit Rodarius Jackson really well. But I think he's just still has places that he needs to see in the process. I think when you look at Sparks and Jackson, Tennessee has done as well as they can for both of them. But boy, are those guys kind of polar opposites in the fact that Cam Sparks been coming to campus since he was in 8th grade, Eric.
Yeah.
Rodarius Jackson's recruitment just started to surge in like October. So I think Jackson's got to get out on the road, see some of these places, and make a decision probably, early July is what I lean to for him. But I still think Cam Sparks may take a trio of visits here in April and leading into May, and I think he may call this thing quits.
I remember talking to Cam Sparks down in the downstairs at the Anderson training facility way back when in like winter of 2021 or whenever things opened up in 2021. And I'm sure you were out there right next to me, but he was young. He was like, yeah,
he was young. Yep.
Safety. And now, of course, he's always been an athlete, and Tennessee wants him to play wide receiver. Matt Ray, sooner or later, I'm not going to be able to afford that talent fee to bring you on the show. Hardest working man in Tennessee recruiting.
I'm trying to figure out what Austin Price's number is. And then, from there, I'm going to, up my talent fee just a little bit at least.
Well, I mean, you're on the show all the time, and Austin's not. So clearly,
clearly,
the leadership of this show likes what you bring. So
absolutely,
Matt. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man.
This episode is brought to you in part by the spring cleaning champions, Manscaped. All right, let's get through this together, guys. There's going to be some giggles. There's going to be some laughs. This season, make sure to groom your carpets and your drapes with the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Clear out the winter brush with Manscaped Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom like the springtime flowers. Embrace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with their special offer. Go to manscaped.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off plus free shipping. After using Manscaped, maybe you can finally say that you caught that spring fever. Introducing the season's champ, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blend heads, a standard one for taking a little off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. Also features dual LED spotlights to help guide you. You need to be able to see down there. Through the darkest winter debris. Navigate with confidence in your delicate areas. Also, it's not just for the nether regions as well. Get the full grooming experience with the Manscaped Signature Beard Hedger Pro Kit plus Handyman Electric Face Shaver. Whether you're looking to craft your signature look or clean up the neckline, these are always the right tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. Nothing like a little spring cleaning in your pants. Big thanks to Manscaped for being a part of the show today, and also over Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry about buying your big tickets to your next big event. Game Time's a fast and easy way to buy those tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, theater events near you, and that's important to remember here. It is not just for sports. It's for those comedy shows, theater shows, whatever event is in your area. They got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Easy to find and buy those tickets on this safe, secure, easy-to-use app. Views from your seat so you know exactly what you're paying for. Plus, they got the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection as well. These zone deals, you pick the section, and Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings. You can find that on the app over at Game Time. So I encourage you to download that app. Create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, I encourage you to download the Game Time app. Create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download Game Time today, last minute tickets, lowest price, guarantee. More Locked On Vols, that is coming up next as we continue on with a Friday show. All right, so yesterday, or 2 days ago, I guess, on a Wednesday afternoon, I'd already recorded the podcast for the following day. Tennessee, not only Tennessee, but the SEC released the 2025 conference games. And we already knew that the SEC was going to stick with an 8-game conference schedule for 2025. That's been rumored and reported on for a couple of weeks. Will the SEC go to 9 games? One can only hope, and I'll get into that conversation here in a moment. But the big things you need to realize here in terms of the conference games Tennessee will be playing in 2025. It's another 8-game season, conference season, and it will be the same exact opponents from the 2024 season. So the opponents in conference that Tennessee plays this upcoming fall, they will play those same exact opponents the next fall in the SEC schedule. They're just going to flip home and away. So, for instance, this year, Tennessee is going to host Florida. Tennessee is going to host Alabama. In 2025, Tennessee will go down to Gainesville, and Tennessee will go to Tuscaloosa. The full list here for home games in 2025 and the conference schedule: Arkansas, Georgia, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt. And the away games will be Alabama, Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi State. So yes, Tennessee's going to play Mississippi State 2 years in a row. Who wants that, right? I'm not raising my hand because I don't want to see that crap. Who cares about Mississippi State? I'd rather play Texas. I'd rather play LSU. I'd rather play Ole Miss. But again, conversation here for the next couple of minutes. The games that are already currently scheduled for Tennessee in 2025, of course, Syracuse down at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. That should kick off the season on August the 30th. ETSU is going to be a game on September the 6th. Tennessee's going to play UAB on September the 20th, and it was announced earlier this week that Tennessee's going to play New Mexico State. It's already on the Tennessee website, and that game's going to be the late November non-conference game on November the 15th. So I don't see the bye weeks, if there's going to be 2 bye weeks. This doesn't necessarily have that, and I'm pretty sure the release does not say anything about bye weeks unless I just missed something. But nonetheless, this is just it's really just kind of a cop-out in my opinion, because if you're the SEC, if you're the Southeastern Conference, and you claim, again, to be, it just means more, we're the best of the best, we're going to go and demand a bigger share of the college football playoff revenue, and we're gonna propose that the SEC gets a first-round bye in the college football playoffs and all that. Listen, I mean, Tennessee's in the SEC. I recognize that. The SEC and the Big Ten, they lead the college athletics world. I get all that, and I'm not arguing that. But if you're going to pump your chest, and you're going to talk that talk, and you're going to claim that you're the best of the best, why are you scared to play 9 conference games? Get it done. Greg Sankey, the commissioner for the Southeastern Conference, wants to play 9 games. He's been on record so many times saying it needs to happen. It needs to be trending. Eventually it's going to happen. But you've got coaches. You've got athletic directors. You've got chancellors at now the 16-member schools of the Southeastern Conference. A lot of them don't want to. And so that's kind of been the holdup here the last couple of years. Meanwhile, you got the Big Ten that plays 9 conference games. You got all these other conference expansion places over here that are playing 9 conference games. But the SEC, who says that they're the best, and I believe the SEC is the best, but you're not acting like it right now, Southeastern Conference. You're playing scared. Go play 9 conference games, play more Power 5 opponents, figure out a TV deal, figure out a revenue share, get it done, and march on towards the playoffs. It's already a 12-team playoff. They're already talking about expanding it to 14 teams. I mean, what are you waiting on? It's pathetic, and honestly, it's a little bit embarrassing by the Southeastern Conference that it's still going to be playing an 8-game regular season schedule for the conference in 2025. It's embarrassing, to be completely honest with you. I'm so fed up with the SEC not going to 9-game conference schedule because, again, like I pointed out, if you're a Tennessee fan, why on earth should you have to play Mississippi State 2 years in a row? Why on earth should Tennessee have to play Arkansas 2 years in a row? I'm glad we're playing Florida 2 years in a row. I'm glad Tennessee's playing Kentucky and Georgia. and Vanderbilt. I mean, I recognize those are teams that Tennessee plays year in and year out. And under a 6-3 model, which it better happen sooner or later, Tennessee will have 3 permanent opponents. Alabama and Vanderbilt will be 2 of them, and probably Kentucky being the 3rd, or we'll see, I guess. And then the others will be on a rotation, so maybe you won't play Florida anymore every single year, but you'll see Florida every 2 years. Maybe you won't play Arkansas, you won't play LSU, you won't play Ole Miss, you won't play Texas A&M, you won't play any of those other teams in the SEC every single year, but you'll see them once every 2 years, and that, my friends, in my opinion, is the greatest thing about college athletics. Going to different venues, knowing what to expect at different venues, seeing a different venue across the Southeastern Conference once every 4 years. That's what it's all about. Every athlete that comes to an SEC program and who plays 4 years should be able to visit every other venue 2 times throughout their 4-year career. That is of my opinion. And that is what, if my math adds up, which I'm pretty sure it does, that is what a 6-3 model would give you. But the SEC's playing scared right now. And again, I don't think it's Greg Sankey's fault. I think he said publicly several times, hey, we need to be there. That's going to get there sooner or later. Let's go ahead and bite the bullet and get it done. But for the man who's the most powerful figure in college athletics, still can't overrule if you don't have a majority vote from chancellors, athletic directors, and head coaches. It's annoying. Obviously, I went on my little rant here. It's very annoying, but fact of the matter is that is what it is. Tennessee, along with every other SEC school, is going to play an 8-game conference schedule in 2025. It's going to be the same opponents that of which you played in 2024. We just don't have the dates yet or the kickoff times. So where this year, you've got that stretch of, let me pull the schedule. You got that stretch of, Oklahoma off week, at Oklahoma, off week, at Arkansas, home against Florida, home against Alabama, off week, home against Kentucky, home against Mississippi State, at Georgia, home against UTEP, at Vanderbilt. UTEP shouldn't be in there. That's not a conference game, but you get my drift. I don't know the order of games or the dates for 2025, and we don't know that yet, but we just know the opponent. So anyway, that was the news from a couple of days ago. I wanted to get my thoughts out there on it because I'm not a fan, obviously. I want Tennessee to play Ole Miss. I want Tennessee to play LSU. I want Tennessee to play Texas A&M. And I want Tennessee to play Texas. I want Tennessee to play Texas. I want that storyline. But we're going to get Heupel and Oklahoma storyline and Bob Stoops crammed down our throats, not just this offseason, but next offseason as well. So buckle up, everybody. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Maybe I'm ranting into the wind here, shaking my fist at the clouds, old man style. But that's what I think. Let me know what you think as well. Hey, when we come back, got a really intriguing question for you. In fact, I'm going to ask the question right now. Which one is more realistic to happen sooner, or to happen this year, I guess, this academic year, a year from now, the next season for whichever team plays? Well, I guess that's wrong. The current season of basketball, current season of baseball, or this fall's football season. Which one is more likely to happen? A Final Four for basketball, a College World Series for baseball, or a college football playoff appearance in the fall? Think about it. The question's a little harder than you think it might be at first. We're going to talk about what I think, and I'd love to hear your input as well coming up next here on Locked On Vols. This week's March Madness bracket highlights are brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. Each week we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest, just like any of the new 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys were able to take it to the next level this football season. Of course, we're going to talk about the Tennessee Volunteers. It can be described as an Armada. The number one team from the SEC in the regular season is as hardcore as it gets. No wonder they landed the top overall number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. They're one of the favorites to cut down the nets when it's all said and done. Had never been to a Final Four. Maybe this year could be the year. But of course, trying to get back to the Elite Eight for the second time as well. Can't wait to see what Tennessee does in the NCAA tournament, and Tennessee can be described as an Armada. Also, the Auburn Tigers, who won the SEC tournament championship, they can be described as a Pathfinder. Thrilling to watch, really created a lane for themselves this season after winning that tournament title championship. Knocked off Florida Gators to do so, and of course, they're beginning their NCAA tournament run as well. And don't forget about the Nissan Rogue. The Oregon Ducks were in action yesterday, and they're a team that went on a run to win the Pac-12 tournament, punching their ticket to the big dance. Win life, go Rogue. That is what Oregon did. Take on the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. You can do all that and more at shopnissanusa.com. We'll conclude a Friday edition of Locked On Vols coming up next. Okay, so I got a question for you, and I posed it right before the break, and I want you guys to think hard about it, and I hope you already have. You've got a question that's been floating around the last couple of weeks, and now that we're in the NCAA tournament, and of course we're in the college baseball season, you might have a little bit more information to make your hypothesis or to make your educated guess. Of course, we're seeing spring football practice as well, and Tennessee's going to get going next fall for the official start of the Nico Iamaleava era. Which one's more likely to happen? Tennessee to reach a Final Four, Tennessee to go to the College World Series, or Tennessee to make an appearance in the expanded college football playoffs? Full disclosure, obviously I haven't talked hoops on this episode. I'm recording this before the 9:20 Eastern Time schedule tip on Thursday night. We all know that game's not starting until around 10 o'clock, and while you're listening to this, how wrong was I? Did it start at 9:20 or did it start closer to 10 o'clock? I'm not getting in front of a camera at 12:30 in the morning. I'm just not. Sorry. However, as you would have already known by the time you're listening to this, if for some reason Tennessee were to have lost to St. Peter's, I would have jumped on an emergency podcast because that's just inexcusable. Nonetheless, Tennessee's in this Midwest region. It's set up pretty nicely, in my opinion. I like Tennessee, obviously, Thursday night. I like Tennessee on Saturday, regardless of its opponent. I think Tennessee will struggle against Creighton, but I think Tennessee's capable of beating Creighton. You get on that, you're probably placing Purdue in the Elite Eight. Purdue's a really good basketball team. Tennessee's played Purdue so far this year, and Tennessee knows what to expect. Can Tennessee get past Purdue and go to its first ever Final Four? I think it's possible. I love Tennessee's region. I love Tennessee's draw in this year's NCAA tournament. I do. I think Tennessee's got an excellent opportunity to go and reach the Final Four. Now, let's go to baseball. One SEC series in. Of course, Tennessee came up a little short. 1-2 was the record. We'll square off against Ole Miss this weekend and Georgia next weekend, where in my opinion Tennessee needs to go at least 4-2, maybe 5-1. Respectable teams for sure, especially Ole Miss. Got a lot of talent, a lot of pop in that order, a lot of pop in that lineup. But Tennessee should go ahead and start stacking up the wins. Need to figure out the bullpen for sure, but I still like, despite the struggles with runners in scoring position last week against Alabama, despite not having some serious questions answered in the bullpen, I still like the talent and the core of this Tennessee baseball team. And quite frankly, Tony Vitello sent a team to Omaha back in 2021 that was not nearly as talented as this one. I understand it's so long and it's such a grueling season, and you have to have some breaks and some luck. But I do like this team. And I think that it certainly can get back to the College World Series. Now for Tennessee football. Starting the Nico Iamaleava era, we know that. Starting to get everything lined up, and let's see what that offensive line looks like. Let's see what that secondary looks like. Depth at running back. I think Tennessee's going to have one of the best defensive line units in the country, and that should help the secondary hold its own a little bit, in my opinion. But it's as simple as this. If Nico hits, Tennessee's going to hit. If Nico is spectacular, Tennessee has a chance to be really special. And this year will be the first time that it's an expanded playoff to 12 teams. So even if you don't win the SEC, you have an excellent opportunity if you're around the top 12 in the country to earn an automatic bid or to earn an at-large bid. I don't think Tennessee can do that. So realistically, asking this question, which one happens or which one's more likely to happen, Tennessee to the Final Four, Tennessee to the College World Series in baseball, or Tennessee to the college football playoffs, all three can happen. All three can certainly happen. We've seen one happen pretty regularly over the last couple of years, and that's Tennessee baseball to the College World Series. However, if I'm start bench cutting this, that's going to be my cut right now. Hear me out. I covered Tennessee baseball on the beat. Maybe I'm too close to it. And I think this team's uber talented. I think this team can certainly go to the College World Series. But until I see some questions answered about the bullpen, I have some questions. I have a little bit of doubt. And I still don't know what they're going to do about a third starter. Do you keep A.J. Causey in the rotation once A.J. Russell comes back completely and stretched out and everything? I think that'll help. We'll see. But more than anything, I think just getting to the College World Series is one of the hardest things to do in all the sports. And winning the College World Series, Goodness gracious. I mean, think about this from an SEC perspective. You have to go through a grueling Southeastern Conference schedule. You have to get out of a regional, which is kind of like a tournament round style play, double elimination. Then you have to go to a super regional, which playing a great team in a series type game. You got to win 2 games. Series like setup. Got to win best 2 out of 3. And then you're going just to get to the World Series. Then you're kind of playing a regional setup at first. And then if you win your quote unquote region of 4 teams, you advance on to the College World Series to play the team that won the other side of the bracket's regional for a best of a 3-game series. It is so tough. So, like, I'm always probably going to say the toughest thing to do is to reach the College World Series because I believe it's the toughest thing to do. This year's basketball team, again, all this going on that they handle business against St. Peter's. I understand March Madness is what it is. It's called madness for a reason. But this Tennessee baseball team is positioned better than any Rick Barnes has had here at Tennessee. They play great defense. They got veteran leadership. They've got lineup versatility with Josiah Jordan-James and Jabbar Meshack and so on and so forth. You have an X factor in Jonas Adu who stepped up. And you have Dalton Knecht, who's one of the best players in the entire country. Tennessee finally has that answer to go get some points and always plays lockdown defense. Again, Tennessee can get bounced early because that's just March Madness, but this team is so much different from any of the other teams that Rick Barnes has took to the dance, in my opinion. My bench would be Tennessee to the Final Four, even though it's never happened before. I think there's an excellent opportunity for Tennessee to do that this year. Again, if Tennessee somehow lost to St. Peter's, boy, do I sound stupid right now, but I don't think that's going to happen. And so that means my start would be Tennessee football to the college football playoff. Again, there's tons of questions that need to be answered about the Tennessee football team. Secondary, left guard, running back depth, linebacker. I get all that. But you expand the playoffs. And if you are a top 15 team, which Tennessee should be, you're right in the conversation to get in that 12-team college football playoff. And then next year after that, potentially 14-team playoff. I just think it's still tough. Don't get me wrong. It's certainly not a slam dunk, but it's never been easier to get to the college football playoff. If you're a top 15 to 17 team, you're right in that conversation. So my start would be Tennessee football to the college football playoffs. My bench would be Tennessee basketball to the Final Four. My cut would be Tennessee baseball to the College World Series. You're listening to this, maybe yours is flipped, and that's okay. It's a really, really fun conversation to have. And that's what I wanted to kind of end this week with. Potentially over the weekend, I mean, I'll be covering baseball and stuff, so I'll be out and about. I got football practice in the morning I got to be going to. If I have time, I'd love to throw out a bonus episode about Tennessee hoops this weekend. But trust me, we'll talk and we'll recap everything Tennessee basketball did over the weekend and the dance and potentially where it's going on to play if it's still alive, which it better be. Tennessee spring practice continues on a Monday morning, and we'll talk about that. And, of course, the visitors that Matt Ray kind of highlighted over the weekend. All that and more is coming up on a Monday edition of Locked On Vols. Can't thank you enough for being here. Appreciate you guys, you everydayers, for making Locked On Vols your first listen. We'll do it again coming up on a Monday morning. This is Locked On Vols.